Hello, everyone. So in fact, this is not really a talk. It's a discussion that we'd like to have. So hopefully it'll be quite interactive. I'm not presenting anything I've done. I'm presenting something that I hope we as a community can do. And the idea is to brainstorm and get some ideas about building a website for OCaml that I think many of us have often wanted and thought about, but it seems there's still several different solutions, and I still feel like we could have a slightly more cohesive portal for OCaml related content. So that's what we'll talk about, and I'll try to guide the discussion by just throwing out a bunch of ideas I've thought about, and hopefully you can interrupt me and tell me that it's a good idea or a bad idea or something else you like. And I've got a notepad, and I'm going to take notes, and hopefully we can proceed further from this after the discussion. So before we actually start talking about some of the basic web ideas I have, I thought it would help to sort of consider the entire OCaml community that such a web portal could target in terms of like the degrees of separation you are from OCaml. Some of us are 0 degrees of separation. You made OCaml, right? Some of us are 1 degree of separation. You know about OCaml because you did a PhD or something in a lab that used OCaml. So that's another kind of community of people. A little bit further is, so a little bit further away is, well, you've heard about OCaml, so you Googled it. And the thing I'd like to, I think we can think about during the rest of this talk is, if you were in that category, would Googling for OCaml lead you to the information that such a person would probably be looking for? And the final category is, I'm a programmer, I've never heard of OCaml, but I frequently Google things about programming. Would an OCaml solution be possibly what shows up in the search result? So, okay, with that sort of framework about the kinds of people we might want to target, let me just state at a high level what I think the problem currently is. Basically, it's that OCaml is much more mature than I think what its web presence suggests. There's in fact quite a lot of OCaml books, blogs, tutorials, there's quite a lot of libraries, but unless you're in that sort of inner core of that circle, probably you don't know how to find these things, and if you went looking for them, you wouldn't necessarily find them all. So there's really no central portal leading to them, is the point. And in those cases where we do have a nice portal, the content is often out of date and or incomplete. So the solution, I think, is just to build a more modern website. And by modern, I mean a few things. Dynamic, meaning the content should be frequently updated, and it should be social. That kind of ties into the first idea, because the way to make a dynamic website is to make it social in the sense that we as a community can go in, modify it. We can do things like rank the libraries and communicate on this website. And it should be aesthetically pleasing, just because that gives us a more professional look and feel. So one idea for such a website, I think a basic requirement would be nice is that it should have user accounts. We can piggyback off of the OCaml Forge infrastructure to support this, and maybe, why not, maybe we should support logging in like a lot of other websites do these days through other networks such as OpenID, Facebook, or LinkedIn accounts, right? That sort of makes it easier to log in, and it's not too hard to implement those things, and it might just improve our visibility in some other, in a broader category of people. We can have account profiles, include some basic information about ourselves, where we are, where we work. Of course, this kind of information would always be opt-in. Nobody would have to provide it if they don't want to. Importantly, such user accounts are the way of authorizing ourselves to modify content, to create a new tutorial and edit somebody else's tutorial, and we can keep track of it, to subscribe to mailing lists, etc. And as a cute thing, this would let us create a map of where OCaml programmers are. It'd be fun. I don't think it would help the core inner circle, but some other random person, programmer who comes to our website might, find it a little more appealing with little things like this. So another thing is email lists, which we have a lot of for the OCaml community. To just know what those lists are, I think would be helpful. There's of course the two big ones, the OCaml list and the OCaml beginners list, but in fact there's a whole lot of project lists and there's quite a few other lists hosted on other servers that probably a lot of us even in this room don't know about. And I think what would really help is to make these lists searchable. I don't think it's that easy to search through them except for things like the OCaml list, which is quite well covered with Google. A lot of the other lists I don't think quite get covered that well, and it's not clear to me how to make them more searchable more easily. And again, if you have an account, you could easily see this list of lists in your account settings page, and you could subscribe by clicking on a checkbox instead of having to go to n different locations and find out how you subscribe to these particular lists. All these kinds of things require some implementation behind the scenes that I'm not sure is easy or whether it's feasible, but these are just the ideas that I think would be good to have, and whether we can actually do it is unclear right now. So libraries, Sylvain just told us earlier that there's a couple hundred packages in OCaml Forge, and about, I think you said 800 OCaml packages in GitHub. So in fact, we have a ton of libraries in OCaml, and it would be great to have a comprehensive catalog of them. And in many ways, things that Sylvain has already shown us, Oasis DB can serve as the solution for being able to create this catalog. And the only thing I'm proposing additionally in this slide is to make sure that that information is integrated in a cohesive site where we have a common theme and everything is sort of in one place. We don't have the Oasis DB website and then some other website where we have the tutorials and another website where we have the email list. So just have everything integrated in one place. It'd be nice to, with 1,000 libraries, it can be actually quite hard to know what's what, which ones are the mature ones, so why not have a little ranking system, which Sylvain already showed us he's implemented. So, and another idea I was given earlier today by Christoph was it would also be nice to know which channels these libraries are available from. Can you get it through Oasis or Godi or Debian, so that way you know if your preferred platform is going to be an easy way to obtain these libraries. So remember, it's supposed to be a discussion, so feel free to stop me and add anything at any time. In addition to having a catalog of the libraries, having the documentation online I think would be extremely useful for a couple of significant reasons. One is that search engines would then lead to our packages, right? If somebody searches for something that some OCaml library provides a function for, you might actually get that hit on Google and end up at an OCaml library. In addition, it might help us with linking for emails and web content, so it's sort of easier to refer to documentation when we're communicating with each other. And maybe we can support cross-referencing between libraries, which I think is a little bit of a problem right now with OCaml doc. It's hard to get links to external libraries. There's already some work done on doing things like improving search that's library specific, being able to search for OCaml functions with a specific type in the style of what Google Haskell has in the form of Google. And I think this kind of online documentation should be available for every version of all of our libraries. So there's a very clear structure. You know what documentation you're looking for the version you need. Right? Blogs, another basic sort of Web 2.0-ish tool these days. We have a ton of blogs. Basically, Sylvain's already implemented this. We have the Planet, which aggregates all OCaml-related blogs. So again, the only additional suggestion I'm making in this slide is that we make sure we integrate that into one common theme and one common website, so it all looks like it's one cohesive portal that we're providing to the world. And if it's integrated with user accounts and everything, we can hopefully remove some of the burden of the administration. Maybe users can request adding their own blog through a form that we implement. And again, search is critical. If we can make these blogs searchable by improving some search engine optimization, that would be great. In addition, it might be nice to have one new blog, which would make major announcements for OCaml. books, I think there are quite a few books. Xavier mentioned Hickey's book earlier. It's a great book. If you don't know about it, you probably won't find it. In the list of books that we have on the main website, it's not there, and a couple of other omissions, such as the Unix for OCaml book, which was recently translated into English. It's not listed there. So it's just a matter of being able to update that content more dynamically, more easily. So in other words, the people who did the translation, if they could have also modified this list on this website, it probably would have gotten there, and we end up with some things that are out of date. Going a little bit beyond just having a comprehensive list of the books, it would be nice to host some of the books in a central location with a common look and feel, of course, with the permission of authors and if they're free books. And I think one of the benefits of that, again, is search, right? If you have a book that's online in HTML format, it's much more likely that searches regarding programming-related items might lead to some paragraph in one of the OCaml books. I also like Real World Haskell's online book. It has a really nice commenting system, which I think helps the author and the community. So it's something that would be nice to have. I think technologically this is kind of, could be complicated because you have to take books in whatever form they're currently in, with the permission of the authors, if they give it, convert it into some new format that supports this kind of commenting and markup system. So, but again, it's just the features I think would be nice. Tutorials. We have, OCamltutorial.org, which has kindly offered to allow us to absorb this into this hypothetical new website if we build it. There's also Pliac, which is, I think, a great little thing for beginners to go through and learn some tidbits about how to program things in OCaml. Probably a beginner who's thinking about OCaml will never find this Pliac website. It's just not visible from any OCaml source. So the only reason I know about it is because I read the mailing list and I remember it when it was done 2 years ago. So users should be able to add their own tutorials easily. We want to support nice wiki, a user-friendly wiki, and of course do things like support OCaml syntax highlighting automatically. In addition to sort of letting users do this themselves, I think for this kind of thing it would be important to have an editor who would sort of oversee the content to make sure it's organized coherently, and solicit tutorials from qualified authors. So this is not really about the website, but it's sort of related. It's just a point I want to mention. It's maybe just a pet peeve of mine, but I think it's important, which is I think we lack a little bit of brand cohesion. And again, to the people in that inner circle, we don't care. We know all these differences. But think about being further out in the circle. You hear about this language, then you start looking around, reading about it, and it's called Caml, Objective-Caml, O''Caml, OCaml. Imagine this for another language, right? Imagine this for Python. If sometimes you saw Python, sometimes you saw Jython, sometimes it was like P''Python, you might feel a little confused about it. Yes?
So about this problem, I managed to extract an answer from Xavier.
Okay.
And the correct one is the last one. So please, everyone, update your website. It's OCaml without a quote.
Thank you for saying that, because in most of this talk I'm trying not to give any opinions, I'm just trying to throw out ideas. But in this one I also have the opinion that the last one is the right one. Okay, and I'm glad our...
First letter, capital is
So,
The first two letters.
so it should be a capital O, capital C, lowercase a, M, L. Okay?
needs to update.
Are we in agreement? Okay.
It's true that on our website or even in the manual, I think we use the full name Objective-Caml.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if we are to converge on something, usually it's the last one.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear that. Objective-Caml is not a good choice because it's 2 words. It's too long. O''Caml is not good because it has an apostrophe. The URL is not going to be O''Caml.
Sounds Irish.
Right? So it sounds Irish, and we don't want that. Right. So OCaml is great. I propose that everybody go back and do a text search on their books, their libraries, everything. Replace it with OCaml, because otherwise the search engines just won't show us as a cohesive community, and beginners will not perceive us as a cohesive community, which is quite the contrary. We in fact are. So let's just market it correctly, show what we in fact are. Yeah.
If you run the proposal, the OCaml proposal, you will have a sentence which is avec OCaml 2.12.0.
I propose we change that. It's a minor patch. I can submit that patch.
Very minor.
All right, we'll see if it's accepted. All right. Similarly, we should think about the URL schemes. Sylvain has kindly offered for this hypothetical website to be OCamlCore.org. I think we should be clear about our terminology so we don't confuse the larger community that we would hopefully attract to this. So if it is OCamlCore.org, we refer to the accounts always as OCaml Forge accounts. And it's just a little confusing. Is it an OCaml Forge account or is it an OCaml Core account? Yeah.
There's a floating proposal. I sent the mail to Xavier, didn't yet answer him, so I'm not sure I can talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I maybe will try to change the name from OCamlCore.org to OCaml.org, because it will be vendor neutral and it will help people to understand that. But I don't know your
Well, I
status.
agree with that, but only if OCaml.org is a bit of a portal, or at least more comprehensive than what is in OCamlCore.org today. I mean, OCamlCore.org today has no distribution, doesn't even have a link to the Camel Core distribution manual, etc. Which is normal. I mean, it's a form after all. It's a set of resources.
But basically, let's say that if we want to make, I just want forge.ocaml.org point to the forge, planet.ocaml.org point to the planet, and if you want to have www.ocaml.org point to Camel in your website, no problem.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't understand.
So I think we should.
Yeah, I think it should be all right.
So it's just to make it
Yeah, sorry, I
neutral.
totally misunderstood.
But I think it's an important point to come to consensus with the community on, because it's different to have OCaml.org redirect to OCamlCore.org, which means OCamlCore.org is really what all the URLs always are going to be?
No, the URL gonna be ocaml.org.
Okay, so you're saying redirect OCamlCore.org to
.org
OCaml.
to ocaml.org.
Okay.
So to keep existing URL, we will do this redirection. I will do this redirection,
Okay.
but I wish that OCamlCore.org will really be about the OCaml community. I wish to remove this OCaml Core direct impression. This is not about my company, this is about
Yes.
the OCaml community. This is something given. I will just keep the sponsoring link, and I hope that some other company around will join me in this effort so that we can work together.
Okay. So that's great. This would happen only if we build a nice website which actually incorporates all the content that
I
is
think
important.
the
And
forge
so-
redirection should be no problem.
Yeah.
And I think that if Xavier wants it or not, if you rank a level where it's beautiful enough, maybe we can make www.ocaml.org. What?
Even if it's a bit ugly, I mean, as long as the content is here, I'm fine.
Okay.
Well,
So
that's the next part of the talk. I'm not fine. I want it to also look good.
So if
No, I applaud your intentions, but well, the one thing I have in the back of my head when I hear you is that many companies and institutions pay hundreds of thousands of euros to try to get to this part, and most often they fail.
Okay. So I'm more optimistic because I think Sylvain has already implemented half of what I've suggested. So,
okay.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
Sure.
So, okay, so the design. Those are a lot of the features. If at this point you have ideas of features that I totally missed, please suggest them, or later, of course, email me anytime. Yes?
So you didn't mention the OCaml logo,
Right.
which doesn't exist. So I nominate the Oxygen team to build one.
Okay, so we could do a logo design competition, sure. All right.
I mean, how are you going to get it to look good? Are you going to pay a graphic designer, or do you know a brilliantly talented?
Yeah, I don't want to make anyone commit to it, but I've had that offer that if we build a decent website and we need a designer, funding may be available. We'll have to ask for it when we're ready to, but it's quite possible.
So when Ron Minsky and I were redoing the CUFP website, the commercial users of functional programming, we just paid a designer, and he came up with many of the same ideas you did. And it's worked pretty well. We haven't had as many users register to the site.
Okay.
But most of the users don't use the social networking stuff, the LinkedIn and
Yeah.
section, but we have the photographs, the profiles show up on the top page of CFP.
Right?
So if anyone goes to CFP.org and you just see random pictures,
Yeah.
that's been very popular. So just to get an idea that
I like that
people are
feature.
using.
Yeah.
But paying someone fee is essential, right? I'm sure we can.
Yeah. I have a phone appointment with that designer on Tuesday.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, he's a guy. John Wood is a great guy.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know anything about design, and I think it probably will have to be outsourced unless someone in our community is a good designer. But most of us are programmers, not designers, so maybe we don't have that expertise. But we can copy other people at least and get some ideas, right? So I'm just going to throw up like 3 or 4 slides of some websites that I think kind of look good. This is a nice, clean, elegant look, PostgreSQL. It has a menu on the right. What they chose to do in the middle was, on the left, sorry, what they chose to do in the middle was give current news, okay? You don't see on their front page what PostgreSQL is, you have no idea, right? To find out, you have to click something. But probably this is a project that already everybody knows what it is. So they use the front page to give current news, which is maybe more important for them. Critically, they have a search bar right at the top. Okay, every website I'm going to show you always has a search right at the top. That's sort of a basic feature these days of content-oriented websites. Here's another website that I think is kind of neat. Maybe you don't know what MongoDB is. I think the developers of this website recognize that you may not have heard of this. So if you end up on their web page, what they do first, they don't give you current news. They say, this is what MongoDB is. Okay, sort of a different idea, but still an aesthetically pleasing design, clean and elegant, nothing too fancy, but on the other hand, decent looking. Drupal, is another website. I don't know, it's got a little bit more content, got different columns. Okay, well, part of this is we have to decide what content we want at the front of the site, and part of it is how to make it look. Do you want it blue or brown or whatever, right? Maybe we should look at the websites of other programming languages. Perl, what they do is they have these sections which sort of talk about the major categories of things you might want from this website. You might have come to this website to learn Perl, to find Perl packages, right? To read some documentation. So that could be a nice idea where we just have these main categories in blocks, and then you click one of them to go to the next point.
We can steal their logo.
Well, I was going to say, did you guys know Perl stole our logo? So, right? We can make funny tag clouds. I don't know. This was just a little tool I saw. You can make tag clouds in the shape of animals, and I found a camel one. Probably that's not useful, but tag clouds can be useful, but not necessarily in the shape of an animal, right? But tag clouds, for example, for the libraries, to know what all the library categories are, that would be kind of neat. I imagine that we might be able to put up some statistics about the site, about the number of libraries we have, how many times it was downloaded. Sylvain showed us a graph already, maybe some user statistics. Why not make those charts look beautiful? It's totally easy to do. There's JavaScript libraries that let you make beautiful graphics just as easily as making ugly graphics, so we might as well choose the beautiful one. So, okay, that sort of covers the features and some ideas about design. Now some of the big questions are, well, how would we actually implement this? Basically what I've proposed so far is known as a content management system. It's a website that fundamentally is about delivering content and you want users to be able to update and modify that content. The leading CMS system by far is Drupal. It has over 500,000 websites implemented in it. It's clearly the mature, sophisticated solution. It's in PHP. However, we have some of our own solutions. Oxygen has a lot of momentum, and we like OCaml. If we're going to be writing this code ourselves, maybe we don't care about what's popular. Maybe I'd rather program in OCaml than PHP. Another benefit of using OCaml as the implementation technology, aside from the fact that that's what we like, is it would be a lot easier to integrate with much of what Sylvain has done, since he has used Oxygen. He's provided an OCaml Core API, which gives us access to such things as the user account system. And I think that's an important criteria, because as I said, half of what I've proposed, I think, is what Sylvain has, in fact, already provided. It's not just the overall implementation technology, like for the whole web framework that we need to think about. Each individual thing has some criteria that are usually things I don't know about because I'm not a web programmer, but I mentioned search on every single slide and how important it was. I don't actually know how to provide search solutions for all the different scenarios I'm talking about. The things I've heard of are things like Lucene, and apparently the more modern way of doing it is there's something called search servers. So your whole search process is like sent out to a server which manages the search for you. Email searching, I don't know what that means actually. Does that mean we have to mirror the mailing list, or can you somehow search a list that's hosted elsewhere? And does it matter if it's a mailman list or something else? So if anyone knows these kinds of issues and has experience in it, please talk to us.
Just where you do to do custom dual searching down, you have to implement anything outside.
I'm sorry, I didn't fully hear your question. So
For search, the last 2 points, they can be provided by custom dual searching down without doing any work.
Okay, so we can just hook in the Google API thing and, okay.
I believe that only works for single sites unless you pay
You can
Google.
do a single site.
Okay, I was going to say unless you pay Google. I'm not sure actually.
Possibly
That's great if you want a certain theme site, for search, an email site, CMS site.
you can do several sites, but a bit sure at the time.
I don't think we should be hung up on an OCaml-based CMS. That's just due to good CMS.
The OCaml Core API can be ported to PHP if needed. I mean, it's just about having the right password and the cookie. That should be quite easy. If we want to make it using Drupal or whatever, we need to create a login that match this kind of thing. I mean, using Oxygen is not. It's a solution. I would like him, but if other people don't think that's suitable for this kind of website, we can go with something else.
So it seems like people are open to being practical rather than just picking the language we love for ourselves.
Yeah.
That's good. In addition, I think maybe a large part of this decision will be dictated by the volunteers. If the few people who are willing to do some of the programming, maybe what they want to do is kind of what they get to do, right? So
That will be the basic problem.
yeah, we'll see. So okay, so that's that. And the last slide is basically I fully agree, a major project I just talked about. I think it's, we don't have to do it all. We can set the priorities, but I propose that we could proceed in the following way. If there was a small core team of people, by small I mean like 2 people who know something about web programming and have some motivation to do this kind of project. They design the URL scheme and write the skeleton code, right? For example, if it was Oxygen, then you just need to write all the services that need to be implemented, and don't implement them, just leave them blank. And then we prioritize which ones we really care about and which ones are easier to do and leave the hard stuff for later or never. And then we hopefully get some willing participants and implement this skeleton. For the design, as we already discussed, probably we need to contract a professional. And you know, the website would be owned by the community, so the decisions about how it, what content is on it, how it looks, would hopefully be reached by community consensus. So we can just set up an email list or whatever and communicate over email.
I think you should not set up an email list. Just use the, if people agree, just use the camel list, because it will maybe help people to pop up and be interested. If it's on separate mailing list, maybe people won't talk, or and you will find all these people we are winning about missing stuff. So if they talk and they work, that will be good.
So that was the discussion.
Okay. I think everyone is a bit tired.
So hopefully some of us are going to hang out still, and we can chat more. And contact me, please, anytime if you think of any ideas about this.
Okay. So basically, we still have the room for something like 20 minutes. So if you want to talk to Ashish right now, just come down and have a chat with him if you want. Or otherwise, I think you will be available on the camel list or directly on your on your email address.
Yes.
So thank you all for coming.